The UK is among the richest countries in the world, and yet the UK economy doesn't work for more and more people. So why is that? Welcome to Bonkers Economics, where we're using images to explore the failure of the UK economy and what can be done to fix it. And here we've got a set of 12 images, and we're working on a series 12 reasons why the UK economy is broken. And in the last 2 weeks we've looked at this image here, which is an image of the UK economy showing the productive part of the economy, which is quite small, and the extractive part here, which is rather large. And then last week we looked at this image here, which shows how the change has happened in the last 70 years or so, from 1950 to 2015 in fact, and we can see that the productive part of the economy has shrunk, and the extractive part, the bit that makes rich people richer but doesn't actually produce anything new, that has grown enormously. So that's at the heart of the problem we're going to be talking about today when we're looking at this image here. So what does this image show? Well, it's something called the UK current account, and it's the balance between what we import and what we export, together with the money that we earn on UK investments abroad and the money that we pay out on foreigners who've got investments in the UK. So essentially it's the income of the UK from abroad, and it's a balance between what we spend and what we earn, like a household income, if you like. And what we can see here is a line in blue at the top, and that represents a period around about 1986, and that's the point at which things all went pretty bad, because the little black box at the top, that's the period from about 1950, and that shows that in that period we were more or less in the black. That is to say, we were exporting a little bit more than we were importing, or we were earning more income from foreign investments than we were paying out on foreigners who'd invested in the UK. So just about keeping our head above water up until the late 1980s. And then this is the same period, all this red ink, that's the same period since the late 1980s. That's all the extent to which we have been importing far, far more than we've been exporting, and our income from foreign investments has been going down, and the amount that we're paying out on foreigners investing in the UK has been going up rapidly. So its situation is deteriorating enormously, and that connects with the images we've been looking at in the last 2 weeks, because the simple reason for that is we're simply not producing enough wealth, enough real wealth in the UK economy, enough of the stuff that we want and need to improve the quality of our lives, and so we're having to import it. And so we're having to pay for it, that money's going abroad, and because we're importing far more than we're exporting, we're having to find other ways of balancing the current account. And the first thing we do is we sell our assets. So all these little blocks here, they could be imagined as things that we've sold, effectively, companies that we've sold or other things that we've sold to foreigners. And what that means is that they start getting the income from those things. So, for example, we know that the water industry is substantially owned by foreign investors. Until recently, the railway industry was. The electricity industry is substantially owned by foreign investors. Most of the brands we think of as quintessentially British are now owned by foreign investors. Vast amounts of the UK economy is now foreign owned, and that's getting greater and greater. And the reason that's happening is because we are literally selling those assets in order to pay for our imports. The books have to balance somehow, and eventually we have to sell stuff if we want to go on spending more than we've got coming in from our exports. So that's what the picture tells us, and it's a pretty serious outlook. And naturally we can't help wondering, well, what to do about it. And again, we come back to the point that we're simply not making enough stuff for ourselves. The whole economy is structured in such a way that we're trying to extract wealth rather than create wealth. And that means that more and more of that extraction of wealth is going abroad, because the people abroad have got the money to invest, and therefore they're taking the profits. And that raises a very serious issue which makes us realise that this situation can just go on getting worse and worse and worse and worse, because when you sell an asset to pay a debt, well then you then have to effectively pay the person you've sold it to provide the service, whatever it might be. So ultimately you've got to give them more money going down the line, because nobody invests money. Nobody, for example, invests in the UK electricity industry unless they want to make a return. So by selling them the UK electricity industry, by selling them a generating company or a distribution company or whatever, you've got some money in to cover some of your indebtedness as a nation. But then you've got to pay them forever and a day for the electricity they produce. So you've got to put more and more money into their hands, and that means that more money is leaving the UK economy because of all these assets that we've sold abroad. And that means that we have to sell even more stuff to pay for that money. So the situation just goes on and on and on. And there's nothing we can do about it unless we can start producing more of the wealth that we need and want in our society in our own manufacturing and productive industries, and focus much less on the extractive industries that we looked at last week, which are simply sucking money out of the economy and allowing it to go elsewhere. So that's the key to this. It's a pretty serious issue. It's not something that's going to go away anytime soon, and we'll be coming back to it in future episodes of Bonkers Economics when we look at some of the other images, because it all comes back to this. It all comes back to the fact that the UK economy is not producing enough stuff to survive effectively, and we're more and more and more dependent upon foreigners to produce that stuff for us, and we have to pay for that stuff, and as a consequence we're getting poorer as a nation, poorer as an economy. So that's that. Thanks for listening. If you want the numbers and the detail on the image, then please do go to the Bonkers Economics website at bonkerseconomics.net. And if you've liked this video, please do click that like button. That's really helpful. And do subscribe if you haven't done so, and thank you if you have. And please do tell your friends, your family, anybody else you think might be interested about the channel and about the issues that we're talking about.